I traveled back to 18 years ago. Back then, Mom wore a slip dress to the college entrance exam and was mocked, called a prostitute. Grandpa broke her leg to stop her from taking the exam. I carried her on my back all the way to school and told her, "Don't be scared. Someday, you'll have lots of money and lots of people who love you." She hugged me tightly, repeating over and over, "Wait for me. I'll be so good to you." I've suffered, so I know how to be a good mom. But there was no someday for us. I let myself fade away. Without me, you can finally be you, not just Mom. Following my memories, I arrived at the college entrance exam venue where Mom had taken her exam in her past life. Reporters and parents crowded the school gate, blocking it completely. When someone spotted me, they shouted, "Make way for the student." I walked through the crowd smoothly and reached the gate, just as a girl in a slip dress hurried out. Before the reporters could lift their cameras, I stepped in front of her quickly, gripped my baseball bat, and said, "I'll take you to the police." The girl froze for a second, then nodded timidly. When I escorted her to the police officer, she didn't forget to murmur a soft thank you. She took a few quick steps forward and explained to the officer, "Uncle, my shoes have metal in them, I can't get into the exam hall. Could you please take me to buy a new pair nearby?" The officer looked down at her sneakers with holes, then nodded without hesitation. The unexpected turn of events soon drew a crowd of onlookers. When one person raised a camera toward the girl's face, I stepped in front of the lens and said, "Reporter, making way, please?" He froze. "Do you know me?" I swung the bat backward, then forward, hitting him square on the nose. His glasses shattered instantly, and blood gushed from his nostrils. The cameras that had been pointed at the girl all snapped toward me now. Love spreading dirty rumors? Love running your mouth? Love calling girls prostitutes the second you see them? I snarled. I grabbed him by the neck, throwing punch after punch to his face. He tried to fight back at first, but one hard blow to his temple sent him crashing down again. The click of camera shutters filled the air, while the girl, now in new shoes, slipped back into the campus amid the chaos. When the police pulled me away by the arms, I still managed to kick out hard, aiming for the reporter's crotch. He curled up in pain, gritting his teeth and yelling, "You little bastard. I'll skin you alive." "Why did you hit him for no reason?" the officer demanded, his face stern. I pointed at the reporter's camera, screaming at the top of my lungs, "He's a pervert." He touched my thigh, and took upskirt photos of me. At that, the reporter's face turned deathly pale. "What are you talking about? When the hell did I touch you?" he roared, furious. Furious, he swung his arm at me. I deliberately didn't dodge, letting his fist land hard on my face. Enraged beyond reason, he held nothing back. One punch sent me crashing to the ground. I clutched my cheek and burst into tears instantly. "What I said is true. Check his camera if you don't believe me." A reporter, quicker than Make, snatched up the fallen camera first. A sharp intake of breath escaped them. There really are a lot. The camera's gallery was filled with lewd, provocative photos of girls, taken from outrageously intrusive angles. "No, this is for work." And I never touched her. She threw herself at me on purpose. Make waved his hands frantically to defend himself. But against the cameras held high and the cold stares of the parents, his excuses sounded utterly feeble. "Disgusting. Pervert. How dare someone like this call themselves a reporter? He's a disgrace to journalistic ethics. Just a clickbait vlogger, another brainless troll stirring up drama online." Cameras were practically shoving into Make's face. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He was left speechless, unable to defend himself. "All right, both of you come to the police station with us," an officer said firmly. "Don't disrupt the student's college entrance exam." With cameras still rolling, a parent helped me up. I wiped my tears and got into the police car with the officers. On the other side, Make, still cursing, held his bleeding nose and slammed the car door shut. "That little brat's got such a filthy mouth." I propped my cheek against the window, tuning him out completely. He was clearly agitated, typing furiously on his phone the whole way, shooting me dirty looks every now and then and spitting out more insults. Finally, the officer lost his patience. "She's just a kid, can't you watch your mouth?" "Watch my mouth? How would you feel if you were framed?" Make snapped. "Do you have any idea how much money this brat's costing me?" He punched the back of the seat, his face twisted with rage as he glared at me. If we weren't in a police car, I had no doubt he'd have jumped at me to beat me senseless. "Framed?" The officer scoffed, raising an eyebrow. "Did a ghost take those photos in your camera, then?" Make's face turned bright red. "Women dress that slutty just for men to look at. I'm promoting them for free, they should be grateful." Make yelled, then turned to the officer. "Bro, you're a man too, we both know exactly what women are thinking." "Shut up," the officer snapped, growing impatient. "If I listen to you any longer, I'll feel like hitting you myself." By the time we reached the police station, the incident was classified as a mutual fight. "Based on the content in your camera, you did take unauthorized photos," the officer told Make. "If the charge of indecent assault is proven, this won't end well for you." Make clearly got the implication. Even though he was fuming, he had no choice but to back down. "Can we settle this out of court?" I want $3,000 in mental damages, I said. I held out my palm calmly, meeting Make's murderous gaze as I lowered my voice. Mr. Make, I remember your son just started elementary school, right? Child of a molester, that's not a nice label to carry. Make's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He stared me up and down for a long moment, his voice trembling. How do you know that? Did you investigate me? I just smiled and said nothing, letting the wordless pressure hang between us. Veins bulging on his forehead, Make fumbled with his phone and transferred the money. I'm warning you, stay away from my kid. In response to his furious words, I shrugged. The women you took photos of without permission, they're someone else's kids too. By the time I got back to the school gate, the exam was over, and students were streaming out one after another. I fixed my eyes on the entrance, waiting, until I spotted the girl's figure. She glanced around, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes. Watching other students rush into their parents' arms, I could tell she was probably hoping, too, that someone would be waiting for her. Hello, Lily. When our eyes met, she hid her disappointment, lifted the corner of her mouth, and said, I remember you, thank you for helping me out before the exam. She tilted her head, curious, but how do you know my name? I looked at her calmly. Because I'm your daughter from the future. My name is Luna. Lily froze. It took her a long time to let out a shocked huh? You live in Lichuan Residential Quarter, Building 4, 9th floor, I went on. Her eyes widened slowly. I added, your birthday is September 6th, and you're allergic to mangoes. The bruises on your legs? They're from when you accidentally broke a bowl, and your dad hit you with a clothes hanger. I glanced up at the sky, then took the first step toward her home. Let's talk while we walk. We can't get back too late, or that old fossil will find another excuse to pick on you. Old fossil was the nickname Mom used to sneer at Grandpa. Lily clearly believed what I'd said. She walked beside me, a self-deprecating laugh escaping her. It's funny, even my dad can't remember my birthday. She turned to me, eyes bright with curiosity. Luna, what am I like in the future? Did I get into Renmin University? That's always been my dream. Her fingers twisted slightly as she stared at me, lips pressed tight with nervousness. You got in smoothly. Your rank was high enough to get a tuition waiver, I told her. Our facial features were nearly identical, except for our eyes. Mine were narrow, sharp and distant, nothing like her soft, warm ones. Lily let out a breath of pure relief, her voice light with joy. That's amazing. Lily let out a short, happy cheer, then bowed her head again, voice softening. But Dad always says girls shouldn't go too far from home. Will he really let me study in another province? I patted her shoulder gently, my tone warm and sure. Don't worry. You'll get your PhD, just like you wrote in your old dream journals, and become a senior lawyer. After so many trials, you'll feel confused, even doubt if you're being too naive. But you'll keep going. You'll still stand at the defense table, using all your knowledge to fight for the rights your clients deserve. I told her about the time she helped a mother escape domestic violence, about how she held an alcoholic husband accountable, about how she aided a child in suing the elders who turned their backs on them. I described the people she'd pulled out of hell, how they'd clasped her hands, tears streaming down their faces, to pour out their gratitude. Lily's eyes glistened with moisture. She twisted her fingers together, a little embarrassed. I never thought someone like me could be a savior to others. I took her curled, nervous fingers in mine, my voice steady and firm. Mom, you've always been a hero in my eyes. The straightforward praise made Lily's face flush. Just call me Lily, okay? And, thank you, she said softly, the last two words earnest. As we neared the neighborhood gate, I stopped. I won't go in with you. If Grandpa starts asking questions, you'll have a hard time explaining. Lily nodded in understanding. She knew better than anyone how rigid her grandfather was. Lily, the reason I came back to see you is to give you something, I said, handing her a newspaper-wrapped item tied with a string that would come loose with a single tug. You can only open this gift when you're in danger, but you must keep it with you at all times. I got it. Lily gripped the gift tightly. It was heavier than she'd expected. Can we meet again tomorrow? She asked, her eyes lingering on me. She clearly still had so many questions to ask. I smiled. We will meet again, for sure. Okay, I'll wait for you. Lily then walked into the neighborhood, and when she reached the corner, she turned back and waved at me. I stayed where I was, waving back to her in farewell. Once I figured she'd probably made it upstairs, I unlocked my phone screen. The trending topic, man molests minor during college entrance exam period, stared back at me, its number of followers skyrocketing by the second. I scrolled through the trending page quickly, only putting my phone away when I was sure the headline from my past life was nowhere to be seen. Will things really change this time? A vague sense of unease crept up on me. I quickened my pace, walked into the apartment building, and got on the elevator. When the number stopped at the 9th floor and the elevator doors slid open slowly, a crisp sound of shattering glass jars reached my ears. Dare to fight back? If I didn't need to sell you off for that pretty face of yours, I'd beat you to death. I typed in the password in a flash, threw the door open, and roared, stop. Bob, who was holding an iron rod, froze at my shout. I seized the chance to yell at Lily, hit the switch. She snapped back to her senses, quickly unwrapping the newspaper, grabbing the flashlight, and holding it high, its beam fixed straight on Bob. Dad, don't push me. Huh, who do you think you're fooling? Bob shot me a disdainful glance. Got someone to back you up, so you think you're tough now? I'm gonna break your leg today, let's see who dares stop me. He lifted the iron rod again. Lily hit the switch immediately. A blinding light flooded the living room in an instant, searing enough to make eyes water. I put on my sunglasses, took Lily's hand, and said, "Close your eyes and follow me." She clung tightly to my arm, limping as she walked. There were obvious bruises on her ankle. She must have sprained it when she fell earlier. Bob, his eyes squeezed shut, roared, "Don't run, you brats." He swung the iron rod wildly, only to step on the shards of the broken wine bottle. A sharp cry of pain escaped him. "Dad," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Lily froze in her tracks. Bob's toe was bleeding from the glass, and seeing he couldn't catch up, he switched to playing the emotional card. "Lily, I raised you for 18 years. To put you through school, I was hounded by debt collectors for 8 years. I begged them for more time, all just to give you a good future." His voice dripped with feigned anguish. "Pressuring you to marry, it's just because your dad's useless. I didn't want to drag you down." I glanced at Lily. She frowned, not with hesitation, but with anger. "After everything, do you still think you can fool me like a kid?" she snapped. "It was you who ran Mom off by gambling. It was you who gambled away our house as collateral. You're drowning in debt, why should I pay for it with my life?" Lily turned away, her voice steady. "Dad, I'm never coming back." As Lily's resolute goodbye hung in the air, she slammed the door shut hard. We'd finally escaped that hell, but where could we go now? With Lily unable to walk easily, I carried her on my back to the roadside to hail a taxi, my voice soft. "I booked a hotel. We'll stay there for a month first. We can figure out the rest after the college entrance exam." She lay light against my back, her bones sharp and prominent. Whether now or in the future, she'd never felt the slightest warmth from her family. Back at the hotel, Lily applied medicine to her sprained ankle. It was badly swollen, but her face stayed completely expressionless the whole time she tended to it. "Luna, what's your dad like?" she suddenly asked. At the mention of him, a small, amused smile tugged at her lips. "It's hard to believe I'll get married someday, and have such a sweet kid like you." I propped my cheek in my hand, watching her smile. "Dad is such a gentle person. He'll never forget your birthday, he'll pick out gifts carefully and plan little celebrations for you. He'll never look down on your family of origin, he'll always try to understand how you feel. He'll make you feel loved and happy, so if someone comes close to you and makes you unhappy, that person can't be him." Lily lifted her hand and ruffled my hair softly. "Really? That sounds wonderful. To have someone so kind love me in the future." My nose tingled with a sudden rush of warmth, and I said firmly, "It's because you deserve the very best." She laughed, then asked playfully, "Was I good to you, in the future?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. "You loved me so much. No matter how late you got off work, you'd always bring me snacks. And every holiday, you'd take me traveling to all sorts of places. Once, some classmates bullied me, you went to school to stand up for me, and told off every single one of those bullies," I said. "You never forced me to be outstanding. To you, even if I was just an ordinary kid, it would never make you feel ashamed. You were such an amazing mom." By the end, my voice caught, and I quietly wiped away the tears that had slipped from the corner of my eye. Lily put her hand on my shoulder, her voice soft. "If the me in the future could hear you say this, she'd be so happy, but she'll never hear it." I couldn't hold back from dropping my gaze. "Because Mom is already gone. The family I made up, it was just a fantasy. Since I could remember, I'd never seen my mom. Every time I asked Grandma, 'Where did Mom go?' she'd shove me roughly and snap, 'Your mom's a slut. She ran off with some other man.' The first time I met Mom, Dad dragged me onto a bus for what felt like hours. A chatty aunt led the way, and the whole trip, she kept muttering, 'Your wife moved here 3 months ago, dressed all fancy, must have hooked up with a rich guy. Honestly, these gold-digging tramps ought to have their faces ruined, so they can't go seducing other men anymore.' The aunt led us up to the 4th floor, fished a key out of her pocket, and unlocked the door without hesitation. A woman was sitting in the living room. The second I saw her, I could barely hold back the tears welling in my eyes. "Mom." At my call, the woman looked up. She stared at me, then stood up as if facing an enemy, so hard that she knocked over her chair. "Who told you to bring him here?" Her knuckles whitened as she clenched her fists, so tight I could almost hear the grind of her bones. "The contract clearly stated I don't allow the landlord to keep a spare key, and I don't let you enter the room without permission," she snapped. "Who do you think you are, breaking the rules like this?" "Who am I? I'm the one who owns this house, and I hate nothing more than homewreckers who steal other men," the aunt screamed. At the same time, Dad kicked Mom hard, then grabbed her hair and slammed her head against the corner of the table. "You damn bitch. You took 10,000 yuan and betrothal money and tried to run? I'll kill you, you worthless thing. Jake, you bastard." Mom yelled through tears. Several strands of her hair were torn out, and a bruise was already forming on her forehead. I'm not going back with you. I'll never go back. Mom's resistance only made Dad hit harder, and it dragged up my darkest memories. Every time he got drunk, whenever he was in a rage, he'd take it out on me. He'd hit my head with an ashtray, force me to hold out my arm, and burn words into my skin with cigarette butts. Grandma always said, "Your dad's just drunk. Just bear with it, and it'll pass." But Dad never stopped. If anything, he only got worse. I didn't want to be like Grandma, standing by and doing nothing. My fingers trembling, I lifted a vase and smashed it as hard as I could against the back of Dad's head. Don't bully Mom," I said, my voice unsteady but firm. The second Dad let go, Mom stumbled back, grabbed my hand, and rushed into a bedroom. Through the locked wooden door, we could hear Dad's hysterical roars. Mom fumbled with her phone and dialed the police. There was still blood at the corner of her mouth, her cheek was swollen, and faint bruises lingered on her face. She huddled in the corner, trembling violently. "Mom, don't be scared," I said softly, stepping closer. "I'll protect you." Mom let go of the hair she'd been clutching, then looked up at me. Her gaze was complicated, deep, unshakable fear shone in her eyes. But in the end, she pulled me into her arms. It was the first time I'd ever felt a mother's love, even though she still didn't dare to look me in the eye. By the time the police arrived, the door panel was already kicked and warped. The officers helped Mom to her feet. When they saw her covered in injuries, their expressions turned cold instantly. "Are you even a man?" one of them snapped at Dad. Dad tilted his chin up defiantly. "She cheated on me. Me not breaking her legs is already being nice. I never even wanted to marry you." Mom suddenly screamed, tears streaming down her face. "I never took any betrothal money at all. You guys dragged me into the wedding car by force. I'd rather die than go back with you." I held the officer's hand, staring blankly as Mom sobbed, completely falling apart. Some kids are a mistake from the moment they're born. Maybe I shouldn't be a burden to Mom. Mom filed for divorce in court. She'd installed a surveillance camera in her rental to record every moment of the domestic violence. "So what if you win the lawsuit?" Dad sneered. He reached over, yanking me out of Mom's arms. I opened my mouth to bite him, but he squeezed my neck hard, cutting off my breath. "This brat's been with me for 8 years. Even without you, I can still use her to pay off my debts." The suffocation turned my face bright red. Dad threw me roughly to the floor. He grinned, his eyes locking on me like I was a chicken or duck waiting to be slaughtered. "Remember the idiot from the east end of the village? He's desperate to get married. In 2 years, Luna'll be 16, perfect timing. You think she's enough to cover what you owe me?" Mom's face drained of color. She stared at Dad in disbelief, her voice trembling. "You want Luna to marry a man 20 years older than her? Have you lost your mind? She's your own daughter." Dad just laughed. He spat out a cloud of cigarette smoke, then grabbed a handful of my hair and pulled me up, saying, "So what if she is?" He pressed the unextinguished cigarette butt against my arm. The pain made every nerve in my body throb. "She's my daughter, she has to do what I say. Mom, go. I'm not hurt." I struggled to get up, but Dad kicked me back down hard. Tears welled up in Mom's eyes. She stared at me, at how I trembled under the cigarette's searing heat. With a long, heavy sigh, she spoke, "I won't divorce you anymore. Just let her go. A name is like a curse. Once something has a name, it's always hard to let go, even more so when it's a person." "I told you," Dad said, letting go of the cigarette, "kids are a woman's weakness. Fighting me? You're just asking for trouble." Mom said nothing. She held me in her arms, dousing the burn on my arm with cold water over and over. I looked up at her and whispered softly, "Mom, don't cry. It doesn't hurt at all." Mom, who'd kept her face tight and stern just a moment before, suddenly burst into loud, wrenching sobs. How could it not hurt? Mom had run away early. I had a scumbag father too. The pain that once scarred Mom was now being copied onto me. I'd always thought, I'd hoped, I could escape that hell, that everything could start over. Mom held me so tight I could barely breathe. But I was wrong. I should have known this was my fate, that I couldn't run from it. I had to break this chain with my own hands. Watching Mom cry harder and harder, I fumbled to wipe her tears away. She kissed my cheek gently. "It's okay, Luna. Mom won't let you get hurt again." That night, the house was packed. Both families had gathered to celebrate our parents getting back together. The table was loaded with dishes, and everyone clinked glasses, chattering loudly. My grandfather, whom I'd never met before, held his wine glass high and shouted, "You should have come around sooner. Having such a good marriage is your luck. If you ask me, we should have broken her legs earlier, so she couldn't run even if she wanted to." Grandma let out a cold snort and swatted the chopsticks from my hand as I reached for a shrimp. "You damn girl, why are you wasting good food on shrimp?" Dad, his mouth greasy from eating, shot me an annoyed glare. "You eat like you've been starved half to death." In the village, girls weren't allowed to eat seafood. Shrimp was always saved for boys to nourish their bodies. "Luna, don't listen to them," Mom said, tapping my forehead lightly. "You deserve the very best of everything. From now on, don't let yourself be wronged." She emphasized the words from now on. A strange, uneasy feeling settled over me, killing my appetite entirely. Grandma moved the plate of shrimp away like she was guarding against a thief, forbidding me from touching even a single bite, and Mom didn't stop her. The house was bustling with noise, but I felt utterly out of place, like a stranger. Amid the clatter of mahjong tiles, Mom hummed a lullaby, lulling me to sleep. Half asleep, I felt her hold me close, and something wet soaked the pillowcase. The next morning, the sky was just starting to lighten when Mom woke me up, telling me to go buy breakfast for the whole family. My eyes still heavy with sleep, I nodded. She patiently braided my hair, instructing softly, buy it from the supermarket nearby. Don't come back until you've spent all the money. If your dad sees the cash, he'll start yelling again. She handed me a 100 yuan bill, a huge sum for a kid not yet 10. Luna, she called out just as I was about to leave, pulling me into a hug. Don't blame Mom. That quiet whisper became our last conversation. When I returned with the breakfast, the house was already engulfed in flames. Amid the wail of ambulances, I saw Mom on a stretcher. Her skin was charred black, but there was a faint smile on her lips. She'd already stopped breathing. In the blink of an eye, I'd lost all my family. What a poor thing, someone murmured. So young, and already an orphan. They say it was a gas leak that caused the fire. Everyone in the family died except the kid. What a tragedy. So careless. Whispers buzzed in my ears, but I had no energy to argue. So that's it. The candy she'd given me last night wasn't a reward for being a good kid. It was her final act of care before she left. I felt into my pocket and pulled out the candy. Unfolding the wrapper, I saw her neat handwriting. Luna, you're free now.